I'm here today to talk about the digitalization and the road that we are following CNH for the digitalization. It's interesting that many of the concepts that I'm going to touch has been touched even in the previous presentation, which is important, is that we have a common ground. So we are approaching the subject from different angles, but there is a commonality that is unifying the effort, probably. I start very briefly on who we are as a CNH, because we realize that often our brands are known, but not much the company itself, the holding. So we are quite big. I want to focalize on the fact that we have 5 different segments. So we are covering agriculture, yes, but we have even the construction and the tractor and the trucks. So the commercial, as we call it, commercial vehicles. And it's important because we are trying to leverage the different sources and the different business model to work on the data. So we are trying to use the experience of the other segment in agriculture as well. And it's something that I will mention through the presentation. In terms of brand, it's probably what is better known. We have Case IH, New Holland, and it's not present in UK, but it will come probably, and Steyr. But we have as well the construction elements and the segments, as well as the commercial one. All of them have started in different moments of the history, the usage of the data, from different point of view, because the business are absolutely different. But now we are gathering all together. In the digital transformation that we are moving on, we are trying to have a centralized data analysis that then feed the different segments that we have. Speaking of specifically of agriculture, is something that is on market since probably 10 years ago, is the precision farming. So this is something that is a given if you want today. So if you are a big producer, you must have the precision farming. We have different products, and we have the open data. So this is what the customer are asking for, the grower are asking for, and this is what we have proposed since, I would say, quite a bit of years. What is slightly new is the effort in smart technology, or is something that we are developing with smaller companies that are giving us the technology, and it's something that is coming probably in the last couple of years. Even here, we are gathering the data and we are collecting the data together with the machine data. It's something that has to be collected and pre-digested, and it's something that, again, is giving us a lot of more information about the crop, a lot of more information that is not specifically the machine, but they must be digested before being used. So the effort here that we are doing is try to be focused on the technology itself, but being focused on the usage of the technology. This morning, Jen was talking about the push and pull factors. We have been moved for a while by the push factor, so the technology itself, but then now we are focused on the pull one. So what the customer really wants. Don't search for the technology for the sake of the technology, but the usability of the technology itself. We have been asked ourselves, but what the customer is searching for? The customer is searching for efficiency. I mean, even the colleague of the class were talking of efficiency. The customer is not searching for the data for the sake of data, but how that data can be used. Benjamin was talking of the usability, not they have to help to take the decision. It's not the data for the sake of data. So the digitalization and the effort that we're doing towards the digitalization is just to gather efficiency. The way we build our strategy is what we call the connector service. So everything that we do now in the digitalization process and journey will lead us to what we call the connector service. That has to be something broader than the pure data from the machine. And we classify in 2 main areas, the field and the fleet. The field is, let's say, simplified with the precision farming, not only, but mainly, I would say, and it's something that is a given. Something that we have to be focused as well, some competitors are doing as well, is on the fleet. So taking information from the field and from the machine. And again, the challenge here is not to gather the information, which is fairly simple, but how to transform that data in something that the final user, the final grower can really use and perceive the added value. the revenue stream that that data is producing. The way we transform or we use those data is what we call the control room or uptime control room. Basically, is the way that we have moving from the data collection to digest the data and make it usable for the final user. So we collect the data from the machine, and for sure there are limitations due to the legislation. But let's say that we have somehow overtook, together with the customer, this part. We collect information and we pre-digest them in cloud. Then use the analytics, and we have developed in the last 3 years a quite strong analytics system. I wouldn't call it artificial intelligence, that probably is a step forward, but for sure analytics that is allowing us to use a huge quantity of data. And we digest the data for who comes after. And who comes after are a mix of data scientists and people that know very well the business. And they work together every day. Because the data scientists know a lot of things, but not maybe the application of those, and vice versa. Who has a great experience, 30 years on field, may not be able to digest such a big data quantity of data. And here is where we create really the added value for the final customer, where we are focused on creating an added value. I'll give you an example of what we think, and I pick up a very simple example of how we transform those data. And this is something similar to what we have seen for class 1 hour ago, 1 hour and a half ago. And it's basically the way we have to monitor a different machine. Simple. Almost everybody has. But what we do is, with the data that we collect, we have transformed the challenge of the data in something simple. What is simpler than the maintenance? The maintenance for the machine. Something that is in the schedule should be something that everybody knows how and when to do. But if you have data from the machine, you can change the frequency of your maintenance based on what the sensors are telling us. So the challenge and the complexity of the data has to be digested, translated in something that is very simple. I plan better because I know when I have to do the maintenance. I avoid to do it during the season, and I try to schedule with your dealer. When I say this, those stuff are super simple and something that everybody could say or think, but the difficult part is to arrive to the simple, digestible use case, we call it, starting from a huge quantity of data that we receive. And this is just an example. Then we became a little bit more sophisticated in our use case, but we start from those levels. And now we are moving forward. Moving forward from here to something that is more complex. Something more concrete is the diagnostic, quicker diagnostic. So from the data that we receive from the machine, and I'm talking of fleet data, so the data that we receive from the equipment, we have to try to be smarter and quicker in diagnostic what is broken or what is going to be broken. And we help, of course, the dealer in doing that together with our control room. Once we have defined what is going to happen, and this is the forecast part of the control room, of course, we have a team that, together with the dealer, is touching the final customer. The dealer and the network are always part of our team, and the dealer has to be trained in use the data. So in the picture of the complexity of the data usability, there is the OEM as well as the network. And the change management on us is not more difficult than the one on the dealers that has a very broad approach to technology. There are bigger dealers that are more willing to change and smaller dealers that are less willing to change. The final step is basically to reach the customer. And we can reach the customer, of course, we have to reach the customer with a preventive approach, so before the issue happens. And this is the step where we are now. So we are developing use cases that are helping us in predict the issue, predict the possible breakdown the machine or the downtime. So we are focalized now on the uptime of the final customer with different use cases. Not one solution, one use case that can solve that, but specific on specific issues, specific components that one after another one can create the complete picture of the uptime. This one is translating something that is called the control room showroom. That is only the physical and visible part of our control room. But the most important part is what happen behind. So the data that we are gathering from the machine and how we develop the use case. And this is the real added value of what we have done. We were talking this morning of the easy to use. This is the way to translate the data in something easy for the final customer, which is the most important thing.